Obviously, if you've been paying attention the past 30 years, you know the internet is not going anywhere. So understanding it is going to help you to feel more capable, more confident. You don't need a PhD. Just some basics can go a very long way. And if you stick with our sessions, you'll be able to resolve your own issues when you're online. You'll be able to mitigate any headaches all on your own. Now, if you joined us yesterday, you remember that we talked about how the internet, right, is just like a giant highway, right? I'm sure you remember this discussion from yesterday. So with that being the case, if the internet is just like a highway, what would we say that our email is like? Right? We know that the routers are like the on-ramp. We know that the websites are like buildings along the highway. And your device, whether it's your TV, your phone, your tablet, whatever the case, your refrigerator, those are like the cars that we use to move along that highway. What is your email like? Well, we talked about this briefly yesterday. We'll do a little review of some of the points from yesterday to get us started. You'll recall that our email is like a P.O. box, right? It's a location where you can receive mail of various sorts, right? And you can see just how stuffed and jam-packed that picture is there for the P.O. box. And certainly our regular mailboxes, right? Our physical mailboxes, whether it's at the end of the driveway or maybe it's attached to our front porch, they often end up that way, right? Just packed with information. And in our still there, you can see someone's Gmail account, and it's got lots and lots of emails in it, right? Various types of emails. So one quick distinction that I want to make for you guys today. Emailing, right? Emailing is not like texting. Yes, you are typing out words, but it's different. And there's a huge difference as to when and why and how from an etiquette perspective, right? And we're all pretty aware of etiquette. For example, perhaps your mother or your grandmother had a curio right outside of the dining room or maybe in the dining room. And in that curio, there was all sorts of really nice dishware, maybe even some china. Now, let's say you were going to order pizza. Would it be a good idea to pull out that fine china to eat the pizza on? Probably not. That'd probably be a bad idea, right? It's not the right format for what's taking place. And so texting is more for just your quick, casual conversations, something that maybe just day-to-day things. Whereas email is a little more longer, right? It's something where you usually going to look at an email and you know you're going to have to read for a little while. It's usually a little more serious, usually a little more formal kind of communication. And it's especially useful if you need a paper trail for a conversation, right? If you're doing any sort of business, if you're doing any sort of like serious things that revolves around like a financial transaction, you want a paper trail, you would do that through an email. For a lot of us, it may feel like email is confusing for various reasons. There's all sorts of reasons that we might feel that email is confusing, but it's not magic. It's not a trap per se. It's just a digital version of something that we're very accustomed to doing, right? Sending and receiving mail. So you probably, maybe even today, have already checked the mail, the physical mail box, right? And you probably remember the first little piece of mail you received as a kid, right? Maybe you had a pen pal, or maybe you had a magazine subscription, right? Those sorts of things happen via email as well, except it's faster, of course. So just backing up again, we know that our email is like our P.O. box, right? It's a place where we can get our digital communication very simply. And it's especially like a P.O. box because it kind of often lands in the same place. We talked yesterday about the domain, right? So let's just jump back to that point we had yesterday about the structure of an email address, right? Everyone that has a PO box is the same address, except on that second line, it'll say PO box, whatever. And there could be thousands of those boxes all going to the same address, but it would have a specific number associated with it. Well, the same thing is true with email, right? We talked about yesterday how there's 3 components to it, right? 3 components. The first is the username. That's everything that comes before the @ symbol, right? So in this case, we have John Doe, right? John Doe is the username. We have the @ symbol, and then we have the domain, gmail.com. So this is very similar to that structure of a PO box, right? It will vary. Yours may be your first name, your last name at iCloud or at Yahoo or at Outlook. But that is that basic format. Now you need all 3 pieces, right? You need all 3 pieces. So to read an email address, there's that flow. If you're reading a physical address, right? 123 2nd Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the zip code, right? There's just a flow to it. Something similar with email. This one would read johndoe@gmail.com. Really important that we read the whole thing, right? You need the whole address, because if you leave out any part of it, it could get delivered to the wrong place. And obviously that would not be beneficial. So let's go a little further with our email. So when it comes to email, right, we talked about the domain name, right? And so just like there's various companies that we rely on to deliver our mail. So we see in our picture there, we've got FedEx, we've got UPS, we've got USPS, right? Those physical mail providers, it's a very similar process when it comes to email, right? So you've got Outlook.com, Yahoo.com, Gmail.com. Those email providers are just like FedEx. It's the exact same concept. They're going to make sure that things get delivered properly for you. So you can access your email in 2 basic ways. And we're going to hit on the details of these distinctions a bit more tomorrow when we talk about websites. But you can either use a browser, right? Remember, we talked about web browsers like Google Chrome, like Opera, like Firefox, or if you're an Apple user, Safari, right? Those are web browsers, and you can go to Outlook.com, iCloud.com, and access your email by logging in, or you can use an application or a mobile app. And both of those things will show you the exact same information as long as you're logged in with the same username and password. Now that part is very, very important. Again, we're going to have a nice live stream next week about username and password. I know it's frustrating. You're tired of having to type your password in. I understand, but it is very, very important that we do that each and every time we're prompted to do so in the web browser or in the mobile app.